Okay, good day. This time we focus on the public policy analysis and implementation. Public policy refers to the decision and action taken by the government to address issues that affect the public. So this can be about education, health transportation, or poverty. No, simply put, when government leaders come up with a plan to solve a public problem, that's public policy. No? Let's say, for example, the K-12 education policy in the Philippines was introduced to improve the quality of education and help our Filipino students become globally competitive. Before a policy is made, it goes through analysis, no? Meaning expert and lawmakers study the problem deeply, no? They look at data, talk to affected people, and review past efforts. For instance, before creating a policy to fight malnutrition, the Department of Health might gather health data and consult local communities. In other countries, like Canada, include public hearings and consultation in policy making to ensure they are creating people-centered laws. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead.
So, good morning, everyone. I am Jam Claudini S. Bolaños, a public health pharmacist from the Department of Health, Metro Manila Center for Health Development. So today, I will be discussing Chapter 3, Public Policy Analysis and Implementation, Key Elements of Governance. Public policy determines how resources are allocated, societal challenges addressed, and how governments serve citizens. A deep understanding of this process is essential for policymakers, practitioners, and scholars alike. So before we dive into the details, let's start with the fundamental question, what is a public policy? So public policy at its core, public policy is the government's structured response to societal challenges. Wait. Sorry. Sorry po. It encompasses a wide range of actions and decisions that directly impact sectors such as the economy, healthcare, education, and public welfare. Effective policies are essential for societal progress as they influence nearly every aspect of our daily lives. So to understand how public policy works, we must first examine the key players involved in shaping and executing it. So public policy is shaped by a range of stakeholders, each playing a critical role in ensuring its effectiveness. Policymakers, government officials, and legislators, they craft and enact policies that respond to societal needs. They create the legal and regulatory framework that guides governance. Practitioners, they are civil servants, administrators, and program managers. They implement policies on the ground. They ensure that objectives are translated into effective actions and services for the public. Academics, researchers, and scholars evaluate policy outcomes, provide insights, and recommend improvements. Their research supports evidence-based policymaking grounded in data and best practices. Together, these stakeholders collaborate to design, execute, and refine public policies. Their combined expertise is essential for solving complex problems and driving impactful, lasting change. So to fully grasp how public policies function, we must break them down into four essential stages. So first, policy formulation. This stage identifies societal issues and explores solutions through research, stakeholder input, and feasibility analysis. The goal is to develop evidence-based proposals that address root causes effectively. Next is decision making. Authorities assess proposed options, weighing their benefits, risks, and alignment with political, economic, and social priorities. The most viable course of action is then selected for adoption. Next is implementation. Once approved, policies are translated into action. This requires resource allocation, institutional coordination, and capacity building to ensure smooth execution across sectors and stakeholders. Last is evaluation. Policies are irregularly assessed to measure outcomes, effectiveness, and areas for improvement. Feedback and data help refine strategies and keep policies aligned with changing needs. These stages form a dynamic interconnected cycle, ensuring that public policies are not only thoughtfully crafted, but also effectively applied and continuously improved. Why is public policy serve why is public policy important? So public policy serves as a guiding framework for government action and resource distribution. Its ultimate goal is to enhance the well-being of citizens, foster social justice, and promote economic stability. Well-structured policies play a crucial role in driving societal development, addressing inequalities, and ensuring economic stability. By creating targeted and well-implemented policies, governments can shape a more equitable and sustainable future for all. So, one of the most notable public policy program in the Philippines is the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, or also known as the 4Ps. It is a flagship public policy initiative in the Philippines aimed at poverty reduction through conditional cash transfers to low-income families. It focuses on improving children's education and healthcare by requiring school attendance and regular health checkups. So by linking financial support to these conditions, 4Ps has improved child nutrition, boosted school participation, and promoted preventive healthcare. Its structured approach from formulation to evaluation demonstrates how well-designed policies can deliver meaningful and measurable social impact. So now we proceed to the categories of public policies. So first is the regulatory policies. This maintains order and prevent harmful activities by setting rules for individuals, businesses, and institutions. These policies establish rules, restrictions, and penalties to ensure compliance and uphold the public interest. So examples of these are the Anti-Distracted Driving Act. This policy regulates the use of mobile devices while driving to prevent accidents and enhance road safety. Another also is our environmental laws like the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Ecological Solid Waste Management Act. These laws regulate pollution levels, waste disposal, and protect the environment from degradation. Another example is the National Telecommunications Commission's regulations. This regulation sets standards and impose restrictions on internet service providers to ensure service quality and equitable pricing. Another example is the Anti-Hazing Act, which prohibits hazing practices in fraternities and other organizations, establishing penalties to prevent violent initiation rights. Next category is the distributive policies. These policies allocate resources, services, and benefits to specific groups or regions to encourage economic and social development. These policies often involve government subsidies, grants, or public investment to foster growth. Examples in our country is, as mentioned earlier, is the 4Ps. No po. So it is a conditional cash transfer program that provides financial assistance to poor households, ensuring access to children's education and healthcare. Another is the free tuition law, or the RA 10931. This law allocates government funds to cover tuition fees in state universities and colleges, promoting equitable access to higher education. Next is the agricultural assistance programs. So the government provides subsidies for seeds, fertilizers, and farming equipment to enhance agricultural productivity. Last is the public housing programs. So the government initiatives designed to provide affordable housing to low-income families and informal settlers. Third category is the redistributive policies. This aim to promote social equity by reallocating resources from wealthier segments of society to disadvantaged groups. These policies are typically implemented through progressive taxation, social welfare programs, and other mechanisms of resource redistribution. So example po is the Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion Act, or also known as the TRAIN law. This adjusts tax rates by reducing income tax for low-income earners and imposing higher excise taxes on luxury goods and fuel to redistribute wealth. Another example is the social pension for indigent senior citizens, a program providing monthly financial assistance to elderly individuals who do not have access to regular income or pensions. Next is the Universal Healthcare Law. It ensures that all Filipinos, especially those in lower income brackets, have access to healthcare services by funding PhilHealth through taxes. Last example is the land reform policies or the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program. It redistributes land to landless farmers to address land ownership disparities and foster agricultural development. So together, these public policy categories reflect how government address societal challenges and promote equity. Understanding them highlights how policy drives progress, improves welfare, and reduces inequalities across all levels of society. Now that we have understand the importance of public policy, let's explore the critical stages of policy formulation and decision making, which is the foundation for effective governance. So, policy formulation and decision making processes. Policy formulation involves identifying issues and exploring solutions, while decision-making refers to selecting the best course of action based on research, stakeholder input, and data analysis. Policy formulation involves identifying issues and developing feasible solutions, while decision-making refers to selecting the best course of action based on research, stakeholder input, and data. This process begins with clearly defining problems, analyzing their impact, and generating solutions aligned with national goals and public interests. The aim is to create evidence-based policies that support sustainable development. So an example is the Universal Healthcare Law. Policymakers identified unequal healthcare access, explored solutions like expanding field health coverage, and enacted a law based on research, data, and consultations with health experts. So before this law was passed, policymakers carefully assessed healthcare needs, funding sources, and the most equitable approach to ensuring access. The law was crafted to provide universal access to healthcare through PhilHealth, ensuring that all Filipinos, regardless of income, would be covered. So, what is the importance of policy formulation and decision making? So, effective policy formulation ensures decisions are data driven, responsive to public needs, and resource efficient. It also helps balance competing interests while promoting inclusive and strategic governance. So an example is like to improve the service delivery, the government introduced PhilSys or the National ID system, which serves as another excellent sample of the policy formulation process. Concerns over data privacy were addressed through consultations, ensuring both efficiency and public trust. So here are the stages of policy formulation and decision making. So the policy formulation process follows a structured approach. It begins with agenda setting, where the government identifies the most pressing issues and that need attention. This is followed by problem identification, which clearly defines the problem and its scope. In policy analysis, different solutions are assessed for feasibility. And then during decision making, the most viable option is chosen based on factors such as research findings, political feasibility, and economic considerations. And then finally, policy design ensures that the policy is structured effectively for implementation. So having explored the essential stages of policy formulation and decision making, it's important to recognize that even in a well-structured processes, several challenges can arise. These obstacles often hinder effective policy design and implementation. So let's explore some of the key challenges policymakers face during the formation stage. So first is the political influence is one of the most significant obstacles in policy formation. Policymakers are often swayed by political ideologies, party agendas, and electoral considerations. Public opinion and media coverage also play crucial roles as advocacy groups and media outlets can pressure policymakers to adopt or reject certain policies. Additionally, shift in leadership and political instability may delay or alter policy decisions. An example of this is the Freedom of Information Bill. The bill aimed at promoting government transparency by granting public access to official documents. Despite strong public support, the bill has faced repeated delays due to political resistance. Some lawmakers argue that unrestricted access could be misused, while transparency advocates push for its passage. So shifting political priorities and national security concerns have caused further setbacks, demonstrating how political influences can obstruct policy formation. Next challenge is the limited resources and competing priorities. Policymakers often grapple with resource constraints. With government budgets typically limited, decisions must be made on how to allocate resources across competing sectors like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and social services. So an example of this, so in our country, despite the efforts to improve the education system, many public schools face overcrowded classrooms due to budget constraints. So the Department of Education prioritizes teacher salaries, textbooks, and learning materials, but insufficient funds are allocated for new classrooms. This situation highlights that though trade-offs policymakers must make when balancing education with another national priorities such as healthcare and infrastructure. Next is the conflicting stakeholder interests. So policy making doesn't happen in a vacuum. Various stakeholders such as government agencies, businesses, advocacy groups, and the public each have their own interests, which can lead to delays or compromises. Balancing these conflicting interests requires strong negotiation and mediation skills. So the mining industry in the Philippines presents a contentious issue. So business advocates for the economic benefits, while environmental groups demand stricter regulation. So the government must balance economic growth from mining revenues and job creation with environmental protection and sustainability. Policies like the Mining Act of 1995 have faced criticisms for being either too lenient or too restrictive, underscoring the challenge of balancing competing stakeholder interests. So this challenges highlights the complexity of policy formation. Policymakers must navigate political pressures, resource constraints, and conflicting interests to design policies that effectively address societal needs while maintaining stability. So after understanding the challenges of policy formation, it is essential for us to grasp the structured process that guides policy making, from identifying issues to implementation and evaluation. So policy making as a combination of science and art. Policymaking combines evidence-based analysis with strategic judgment. The science lies in using data, research, and logic to shape effective solutions. The art involves negotiation, creativity, and adaptability to navigate political, economic, and social complexities. Successful policies results from balancing these elements to ensure they are both practical and sustainable. So an example of this, as mentioned earlier, is the Universal Healthcare Law. This is a prime example of this dual approach. So developed through extensive research and best practices, it was grounded in scientific evidence. However, successful implementation required negotiation with stakeholders such as healthcare providers, insurance agencies, and lawmakers. Balancing fiscal sustainability with universal coverage showcase the strategic flexibility required in policy making. So, before policies can be developed, it is essential to define the problems that require government intervention. This foundational stage sets the direction for policy development. So, for the pre-policy stages, so first is the problem definition. Policymakers must accurately identify societal issues in need of intervention using data, stakeholder consultations, and expert analysis. So an example is as mentioned earlier, the Anti-Distracted Driving Act. It, it was created in response to the rising number of road accidents caused by distracted driving, particularly from mobile phone use. Next is the demand and prioritization. Various groups, including citizens, businesses, and advocacy organizations, push for their issues to be addressed. Policymakers must prioritize these demands based on urgency, feasibility, and political will. An example is the expanded maternity leave law. This law was passed in response to public demand for stronger labor rights protections, extending paid leave for working mothers. So third is the agenda setting. The government decides which issues to address first based on urgency and feasibility. Media, public opinion, and interest groups heavily influence the prioritization of issues. So an example of this is the K-12 education reform that was prioritized due to concerns about the country's global competitiveness and the need for more comprehensive education. So once the policy process begins, it moves through several stages to ensure the policy is executed and its impact assessed. So first stage is the problem redefinition. New insights or challenges during policy discussions may require adjustments to the policy's goals or implementation approach. Example is the train law. It faced opposition due to concerns over rising fuel prices. So in response, the government introduced mitigation measures like fuel subsidies for low-income households. Next is policy implementation. At this stage, the policy is executed by government agencies. Successful implementation requires coordination, resources, and compliance. An example is the program Build program, which required close collaboration between government agencies and the private sector to ensure infrastructure projects were completely efficient. Next is evaluation. So the law was evaluated. The policy's effectiveness is assessed, determining whether it meets its objectives or needs adjustment. So an example is the rice tariffication law. This law was evaluated to assess its effect on rice prices and local farmers. Adjustments were later made to better support farmers. Last is the adoption or amendment. Based on evaluation findings, policies may be institutionalized, revised, or repealed to remain relevant and effective. A perfect example is the national ID system, which faced initial implementation delays but was refined to improve registration and distribution efficiency, leading to smoother adoption. So, after policy formulation, the next crucial phase is policy implementation. This phase involves executing government policies and ensuring they achieve their intended outcomes. So let us define first what is policy implementation. It is the process of executing government policies after approval. It involves coordinated efforts from various stakeholders, government agencies, local government units, the private sector, and civil society organizations. Without effective implementation, even the best designed policies can fail. So there are three key aspects of policy implementation. So first is coordination among sectors, agencies, and levels of government. Successful implementation requires seamless collaboration across national agencies, LGUs, and private stakeholders. Clear roles and communication channels are critical. An example of this is during the COVID-19 vaccination program. The national government coordinated with the LGU, private hospitals, and international bodies like WHO to distribute vaccines overcoming logistical challenges, particularly in remote areas. Next is managing bureaucratic structures and administrative processes. Bureaucratic inefficiencies can slow down policy implementation. Efficient management of administrative processes such as staff training, resource allocation, and clear timelines is essential. So, an example is the Ease of Doing Business Act. So, this law simplified business registration but faced challenges like bureaucratic resistance and lack of infrastructure. Measures like online processing and the creation of the Anti-Red Tape Authority or ARTA help improve implementation. Last but not the least is addressing potential barriers to implementation. Barriers like lack of funding, corruption, and logistical challenges can hinder policy success. Identifying and addressing these issues early increases the chances of achieving desired outcomes. So, as mentioned earlier, for example, like this, the K-12 education reform, it faced challenges such as classroom shortages and teachers gap. The government responded with budget increases, teacher hiring, and financial aid for low-income families. So even with a well-designed policy, implementation can face roadblocks that reduce its effectiveness or lead to failure. Overcoming these challenges requires strategic planning, adaptability, and collaboration among stakeholders. So here are the following challenges, key challenges in policy implementation. Bureaucratic resistance and institutional inertia. Government agencies often resist change due to rigid procedures, fear of increased workload, or concerns about losing authority or accountability. So example again is the Philippine National ID system that faced delays due to bureaucratic resistance, underdeveloped infrastructure, and data privacy concerns. These challenges were addressed through leadership reform and investments in IT systems. Next is the insufficient funding and resource constraints. Effective implementation depends on sufficient financial, human, and technological resources. Inadequate funding can result in incomplete programs, poor service delivery, or delayed initiatives. Example is the disaster risk reduction and management challenges. So the Philippines, as we all know, we are prone to natural disasters. We often lack funding for evacuation centers and emergency supplies. So many local governments relied heavily on national assistance, causing response delay. Strategic resource allocation is essential for timely disaster response. Next is contradictory mandates and opposition from affected parties. Policies may conflict with existing laws or interests, creating confusion or delays. Resistance from powerful stakeholders such as businesses or landowners can block or dilute reforms. So an example of this is the National Land Use Act. This is intended to regulate land development and promote sustainability, faced opposition from business and real estate groups fearing economic losses. So conflicting national and local mandates also stalled implementation. Stakeholder resistance often leads to policy revisions or deferrals. So effective implementation demands strategic planning, proactive execution. Governments must anticipate obstacles and adopt strategies that promote compliance, encourage collaboration, and ensure sustainability. So here are the key strategies for effective policy implementation. First is the use of policy instruments, laws, incentives, and information campaigns. Effective policy implementation relies on a mix of strategies to ensure success. One key approach is the use of policy instruments, including laws, economic incentives, and public awareness campaigns. Regulations establish clear rules and consequences, while financial incentives encourage voluntary compliance. Public awareness efforts, on the other hand, help educate citizens and build supports for policies. An example is the sin tax law, where higher taxes on tobacco and alcohol, along with educational campaigns, effectively reduce consumption and raise funds for public health. Next is another crucial strategy is the stakeholder engagement and transparent communication. Effective implementation requires collaboration among government agencies, businesses, civil society, organizations, and communities. Public consultations and feedback mechanisms allow policymakers to address concerns before implementation, refine strategies, and enhance inclusivity. A notable example is the Bangsamoro Organic Law, which was developed through extensive consultations with local communities, indigenous groups, and religious leaders, minimizing resistance and improving acceptance through transparency and involvement. Finally, capacity building and collaborative governance play a significant role in successful implementation. Training government employees, improving infrastructure, and providing technical support ensure agencies have the necessary capabilities to execute policies effectively. Collaborative governance involves partnership with the private sector, NGOs, and international organizations to maximize funding and expertise. So the Build program in our country exemplifies this approach. Through public-private partnerships, the government accelerated infrastructure development, facilitating the faster construction of roads, bridges, and transportation networks. These partnerships help bridge resource gaps and improve efficiency, demonstrating the value of collaboration in policy implementation. So by combining these strategies, governments can enhance policy effectiveness and ensure that policies achieve their desired outcomes. So as society evolves, policies must be revisited and reformed to remain effective. Public policy reforms aim to improve governance, enhance service delivery, and ensure institutions are transparent, accountable, and citizen-focused. So let's now explore the key aspects and examples of these transformative efforts in our country. First is the focus on quality services and effective governance. One of the core objectives of public policy reforms is to improve the quality of government services and to ensure effective governance. These reforms aim to make public services more accessible, efficient, and responsive to the needs of citizens. Strengthening institutional capacity and promoting accountability are critical components in this process. A clear example, again, is the Ease of Doing Business Act, which was enacted to simplify business registration and licensing procedures. As a result, business transactions became faster, promoting economic activity and investor confidence. So we can say that when public services are streamlined and transparent, both citizens and enterprises benefit significantly. The drive for public policy reform often arises from persistent inefficiencies in the public sector and the broader push for economic liberalization. Governments seek to eliminate delays, reduce corruption, and make better use of public resources. At the same time, market-friendly reforms aim to create an enabling environment for investment and job creation. For instance, the Government Service Insurance System, or the GSIS, they underwent digital transformation to address long wait times experienced by government employees when processing loans and benefits. The shift to online platforms enabled faster loan applications, claims processing, and benefit distribution, significantly improving service delivery and minimizing inefficiencies. This case illustrates how leveraging technology can transform traditional government processes and better meet public expectations. So next, several landmark reforms in the Philippines further demonstrate how public policy adjustments enhance transparency and governance. So the Anti-Red Tape Act along with the creation of the ARTA, or the Anti-Red Tape Authority, mandated strict timelines for processing permits and licenses, effectively streamlining government procedures and reducing opportunities for corruption. These reforms are also empowered citizens by establishing feedback mechanism to report inefficiencies and misconduct. Additionally, efforts to improve budgeting transparency and procurement processes have been reinforced through initiatives like the Open Government Partnership, or the OGP, which promotes access to public financial data, enabling citizens to track government spending and holds officials accountable. Similarly, the Government Procurement Reform Act ensures a fair, transparent, and competitive bidding process for government contracts, reducing the risk of favoritism and mismanagement. Together, these reforms represent a strong push toward integrity, fiscal responsibility, and better public service delivery. So, after policy reforms are implemented, evaluation ensures that these changes are delivering meaningful results. It helps determine if policies are effective, efficient, and equitable, particularly for marginalized communities, and guides adjustment for continuous improvement. So, here are the key aspects of policy evaluation. Evalu First, evaluating effectiveness, efficiency, and equity. A comprehensive evaluation framework looks at the three key dimensions, no? So, effectiveness, efficiency, and equity. Effectiveness asks whether the policy is achieved its goals. Efficiency examines if resources were used wisely. And equity assesses whether all groups, regardless of geography, income, or status, benefited fairly. A relevant case is the K-12 education reform in our country, which added 2 years to the basic education cycles. So policymakers must evaluate if this reform truly enhanced students' readiness for work or higher education, whether government spending on curriculum and infrastructure was justified, and whether students from rural or low-income backgrounds enjoyed the same benefits as their urban counterparts. A well-designed policy must succeed on all three fronts. Next is policy evaluation also plays a vital role in identifying areas for improvement. Even well-intentioned policies can have unintended consequences or fall short in practice. For instance, the rice tarification law is a strong example of this. While it aimed to lower rice prices by removing import restrictions, its implementation led to difficulties for local farmers facing increased competition. Evaluation revealed these shortcomings, prompting the government to roll out support measures such as subsidies and training programs to protect Filipino rice producers. Through continuous monitoring, policymakers can respond flexibly and ensure that policies remain aligned with national goals. Finally, measuring the social, economic, and environmental impacts of a policy ensures a well-rounded understanding of its outcomes. For instance, the Boracay Rehabilitation Program was not just about restoring the island's natural beauty. It also had significant social and economic effects. Improved waste management and infrastructure benefited the community, while stricter regulations preserved the environment. However, the temporary closure of the island also disrupted tourism-related jobs. So policymakers had to weigh the short-term losses against the long-term goal of sustainable development. So we can say that evaluating such multidimensional impacts helps governments strike a balance between growth, equity, and sustainability. So while evaluating policies provides insights into their outcomes, it is equally important to understand the factors that influence those outcomes in the first place. Policies are shaped by a complex web of political, institutional, and global factors. Understanding these influences is crucial for comprehending why some policies succeed while others struggle or evolve over time. So, first, influence, one of the most significant factors is political dynamics, which includes public opinion, lobbying, and electoral incentives. Policymakers often respond to citizen sentiment, especially when it is strongly expressed through protests, media, or surveys. Interest groups and lobbyists also play a powerful role by advocating for policies that benefit their sectors. Additionally, politicians may support popular but short-term programs to boost their chances during election. So, a clear example of this is the free tuition law, which was heavily influenced by public demand and youth advocacy. Lawmakers saw it as both a public service and a political opportunity, making it a legislative priority during election season. Beyond politics, institutional factors such as bureaucracy, administrative capacity, and the legal framework also shape policy outcomes. Even the best policies can falter if government agencies lack the resources, skills, or infrastructure to implement them. Complicated bureaucratic processes can slow down or derail reform efforts. So, as mentioned earlier, the Freedom of Information Law faced such challenges. It was delayed for years due to concerns over administrative burden and resistance from public officials. Even after being signed via executive order, weak institutional capacity limited its full and consistent enforcement. N- Um, Last is the external influences like globalization, technological change, and international agreements significantly impact domestic policy. Global markets, digital innovations, and environmental challenges all push governments to adapt their policies. So, an example is the Philippines Renewable Energy Act. This was shaped by international pressure to reduce carbon emissions and by the country's commitment under the Paris Climate Agreement. As part of the global community, the Philippines, like many nations, must align its policies with international standards to remain competitive and compliant in areas such as trade, environmental protection, and labor rights. So, while political, institutional, and global factors shape policy, public opinion is one of the most immediate and dynamic forces influencing policy making. In a democracy, citizen feedback is essential, creating a continuous dialogue between the government and the people. Public sentiment can elevate, reshape, or halt policies, acting both as a driver and a disruptor. So, key aspects of public engagement in policy making. One important aspect of this engagement is recognizing that public administration is both a science and an art. On one hand, it involves rigorous methodologies such as research, data analysis, and policy evaluation to ensure that decisions are grounded in evidence. On the other hand, it requires a creative and adaptive approach, balancing competing interests, negotiating among stakeholders, and addressing unpredictable real-world challenges. Policymakers are therefore called to combine analytical precision with practical governance strategies to design workable solutions. So, a compelling example again of this is the Philippines COVID-19 response, where health policies were driven by scientific data, while public sentiment about lockdowns and economic hardships required a compassionate, adaptive response. So this illustrates the need for both analytical precision and empathic governance. Um, Building on this foundation, meaningful public management further enhances the policy process by fostering democracy, accountability, and better decision making. Governments often conduct public consultations, surveys, and town hall meetings to solicit community feedback, which helps ensure the policy resonate with public needs and realities Engaging citizens at the grassroots level not only informs more relevant solutions but also build trust and legitimacy. So for instance, the passage of the Bangsamoro Law, Organic Law, this was the result of extensive consultations with local communities, indigenous peoples, and various stakeholders. By incorporating diverse voices, the government was able to create a legal framework that supported peace, inclusivity, and regional autonomy, demonstrating how public participation can lead to stronger and more sustainable policies. However, while public involvement offers many advantages, it also comes with inherent risks. On the positive side, it enhances legitimacy, increases transparency, um, and leads to more responsive and grounded policy outcomes. Yet, there are also significant challenges to navigate. Public opinion can sometimes be swayed by misinformation or populist rhetoric, which may result in the support of policies that are ineffective or even harmful. Moreover, intense political polarization and prolonged public debates can stall the policy process, especially when swift action is required. The contentious debate surrounding the Anti-Terrorism Act illustrates these complexities. While the government defended the law as essential for national security, many citizens, advocacy groups, and legal experts raised concerns about potential human rights violation. The resulting protests, online campaigns, and legal challenges delayed the law's implementation, underscoring how powerful and at that time disruptive public opinion can be in shaping policy trajectories. So in summary, public engagement is a powerful but double-edged tool. When guided by facts and inclusion, it leads to better governance. When driven by misinformation or division, it can derail well-designed policies. So, policymakers must therefore strike a careful balance between being responsive to the public and grounded in evidence-based principles. So as we conclude, let's revisit the core insights on public policy analysis and implementation and the critical factors for achieving its success. So, public policy analysis is a dynamic multi-stage process encompassing formulation, implementation, and evaluation. It begins with clearly identifying issues and crafting evidence-based solutions through research and stakeholder input. Implementation turns this plan into action, requiring coordination, resource management, and the ability to navigate bureaucratic and institutional challenges. Evaluation then measures effectiveness and ensures policies remain relevant in a changing environment. Each stage presents its own challenges, from aligning competing interests during formulation to overcoming resistance and resource gaps in implementation and evaluating complex outcomes. However, strategies like inclusive stakeholder engagement, data-driven decision-making, and transparency enhance policy effectiveness. Ultimately, successful public policy hinges on understanding broader influences, political, institutional, global, and technological, as well as the local context. Policies grounded in both strategic insight and public support are more likely to achieve lasting impact. So, case study po. So, an example po, no? So, the reproductive health law in the Philippines, the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act was passed in 2012 after years of debate and opposition from various sectors, including the Catholic Church. We strongly oppose the bill. So for public opinion and engagement, public opinion played a significant role in the passing of the law. Despite strong opposition, majority of Filipinos supported family planning services, access to contraceptives, and reproductive health education as reflected in surveys. Civil society groups, women's rights organizations, and health advocates were instrumental in lobbying for the bill, organizing rallies, petitions, and media campaigns to raise awareness about reproductive rights. So the challenges and impact. The law faced political resistance from conservative groups, which delayed its implementation in certain areas. However, the strong public support and advocacy efforts were pivotal in overcoming the opposition. Today, the law provides access to family planning methods and reproductive health services, particularly benefiting marginalized communities. So, as we reflect on what's have been discussed, public policy plays a central role in shaping societal outcomes from economic development to social equity. Understanding how policies are developed and implemented and refined empowers us to become more informed citizens, better leaders, and more effective change agents. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, so thank you so much. No? Uh, the before a policy is made, as I mentioned, no, it goes through analysis, no, meaning expert and lawmakers study the problem deeply. No, so they look data, talk to affected people, and review past errors. No, for instance, before creating a policy to fight malnutrition, as I mentioned, no, our Department of Health might gather health data and consult local community. No, so stakeholders are individuals or groups who are affected by or can influence the policy. In our country, this can include local government units, no, civil society groups, business sectors, or even farmers and fishermen. No, when creating a policy on agricultural aid, no, the government consults these groups. No, a global example is out in Australia, where indigenous communities are involved when making environmental or land use policies that affect them. So what is the policy implementation? So implementation means putting the policy into action. Even a good policy will fail if not implemented properly. So it requires coordination, funding, train staff, no, and clear plans. No, take the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino programs, yung purpose natin, which a government policy that gives cash aid to poor families. No, its success depends on social workers, LGUs, and even the families themselves following these guidelines. No, so what will be the challenges in implementation? Sometimes policies don't work because of lack of money, no, poor planning or corruption. A good example is the jeepney modernization program in our country. Although the goal is to reduce pollution and improve transportation, the program faced criticism because many drivers couldn't afford the new vehicles and didn't feel included in the planning. Ako, I believe, no, ang Pilipinas napakagaling natin sa planning, no. We are very good in planning. What will be the problem? The monitoring and evaluation, no. Once a policy is implemented, it must be monitored dapat, no, and evaluated. This means checking if it's working, if the money is used properly, and if the goals are being met. In our country, the Commission on Audit check how public funds are spent, while government departments submit reports and performance indicators. I think we consider the importance of flexibility. Sometimes, a policy need to be changed after it starts. That's why being flexible is important. Let's say, for example, during COVID-19 pandemic, eksakto ang presenter natin nasa field ng health. The government had to adjust health policies weekly as the situation changed. In South Korea, use real-time data to update the response quickly, helping them manage the outbreak better. And lastly, citizens can help shape and improve policies. Reporting corruption, joining consultation, or voting wisely are simple ways to get involved. In the global setting, countries like Switzerland allow public voting, referendums on big policies. In the Philippines, you can join barangay assemblies or public hearing to voice your concern. Pero hindi ganun ka-open. Ano po? Okay, so I think that's it for the topic po ng ating presenter.